All right, this is the Big Douglas Show, the special Masters edition, brought on my buddy Andy Burrows. And at Mr. Rodgers 99, Cam Rodgers is with us. Cam, I appreciate you coming back again this year.
What's going on, guys? Great to be with you. Exciting week of golf, of course, and the leaderboard is already interesting, no doubt.
Cam, I got my Georgia, Hawaiian polo on. Please give me good news for my man Bubba Watson in this thing.
Yeah, so Bubba Watson is kind of flying under the radar here. Not a lot of buzz about him going into this tournament, but Bubba is one of those players who obviously has a consistent tee to green game, especially off the tee. But also, if he likes a golf course, he more than likely will play well at that course year in and year out. Riviera, for example, obviously Augusta National, several other courses on tour as well, but Augusta and Riviera are top of the line for him. The Travelers Championship, TPC River Highlands too. So he's a course history guy. And I like his chances this week solely because of that. And along with his tee to green game, maybe he can channel that even more this week. It should be interesting.
Cam, what do you think of, I'm just watching now, obviously being a European, my guy Rory McIlroy, currently 3 over.
Yeah.
He's recently said that he's tried to follow in DeChambeau's kind of footsteps, bulk up, change his swing. Do you think that's been to the detriment of his game? Because I'm watching him literally right now, and he seems to be, again, for probably like the 7th or 8th week running, really struggling with his game.
Yeah, absolutely. On my show, I call it the curious case of Rory McIlroy, because for some reason, this guy is so talented, but yet hasn't been playing well at all. And especially today, another guy who was not getting a lot of buzz, positive buzz, at least going into this tournament. And so, yeah, I think we have to go back to the Bryson DeChambeau situation. He was very candid with the media, talking about how, yeah, I'm trying to chase this speed thing, and along the way, I sort of lost my game in other areas. And golf can be a game of tinkering, but when you're trying to replicate Bryson DeChambeau, that's a tough needle to thread, because look at Rory's physique and then look at Bryson's physique, and you can tell they're totally different human beings. And so I think Rory sort of pushed the limits, and he needs to dial it back, play within himself again. He's plenty long. He does not need to get any longer than what he is right now. Work on the short game, work on the putter. Your iron game can be fantastic if you work on that too. And so I think maybe it's a learning experience for him going back to that fall.
Yeah, I'm just watching now. He's just gone to 5 over as well. It's like, wow, he's really fallen from grace really in the last 6 to 7 months.
Yeah, it's interesting. He's actually gotten worse, and Spieth has gotten better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jamie, the host of the Tiger Woods podcast, I know they're doing a couple of things for Tiger since he's not there. Is the cutout or the open space, is that odd, or you think it's appropriate?
The open space with Tiger Woods?
Yeah.
In terms of just the golf world right now?
Yeah, weren't they? I thought they were doing like leaving his spot open at the table.
Oh, yeah. Yes, at the Champions Dinner.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And I think that will be as far as they go in terms of tributes for Tiger Woods. And honestly, I think that's what he prefers. He doesn't want the spotlight on him. Yeah. He's obviously a private guy. He has not been very public about the injury. He's released statements, but it's not like he's flipping around his phone, taking a video and giving us updates every single week. That's not who Tiger Woods is. And so, yeah, I think the guys miss him out there. There's no doubt. Obviously, a lot of them were fielding questions earlier this week about Tiger's absence. And so it will feel weird on Sunday afternoon without him being there, but we've been through this before as well. We've had Masters before without Tiger Woods. So I think golf is in fine shape, especially with characters like Bryson DeChambeau, who can continue to push out good content for people out there.
Yeah. Cam, looking at the scores, how important do you think it is, obviously with the event being held last November, and Dustin Johnson, finishing on a ridiculous score for a Masters course. And just looking at the scores now, it seems to me that the organisers of the event are really letting the course cut its teeth now, saying, look, no one's really going to be shooting 20 under on this event. So it's such, compared to November and now, the organisers of this event are really wanting to get back that Masters feel to that course, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody will be laughing their way to 20 under par this week. That I can guarantee you. Dustin Johnson made a mockery of Augusta National back in November, and something tells me that the Augusta National leadership took that personally. And here we are this week with a baked out, crusty Augusta National golf course, especially these greens so far, guys. You can tell that the balls are bouncing. They're not sticking towards the flag. They're actually rolling away if you don't hit them in the right spot. They don't look perfectly green, to be honest with you. I have them on my TV right now. And so it's going to be a different test this week. Firm and fast conditions. Greens won't be as receptive, although we are getting some weather on Saturday, perhaps. So watch out for that. There could be some moisture happening within those greens, although the drainage system is very good there. So we shall see how that all pans out. But yeah, we're not going to get 20 under. I'm thinking like somewhere around 12 or 13.
Yeah, Bryce has just gone 3 over.
Cam, in a world where we're gambling more and more and nobody seems to care, in fact, it's all but being said, let's do more. What's the best way to gamble golf, bet golf, for those of us that probably have not been used to doing that before?
Yeah, the proliferation of golf betting has been truly remarkable, and I think it's a great thing. The PGA Tour is now endorsing it. It took them a while, by the way, but now everybody seems to be on board. I think it depends on the tournament. For example, with Augusta National and the Masters, you typically want to focus in on the chalkier plays, the favorites. You don't want to get too cute with the long shots or anything like that, because typically experience breeds success at this tournament. So picking somebody like a Jon Rahm to win outright would make a lot of sense. Picking Jordan Spieth to finish inside the top 10 also would make a lot of sense, because course history, again, matters a lot here. Something like the Players' Championship, you can have a little bit more fun with that. There's more volatility involved, and you can, perhaps go with matchup plays, which are more like picking NFL games, two golfers going up against each other. It's basically a 50-50 proposition. That could be something you could do. You could pick top nationality if you want to sprinkle a little bit of cash down on that. But golf betting is very difficult because, again, it's such a volatile game. You can miss 3 cuts on the PGA Tour and then win the next week. And you're almost like, well, what did we miss? And sometimes people just kind of pop out of nowhere and win on the PGA Tour. So I think you don't want to break the bank for the most part when you're betting on golf, but it is worth doing for sure if you do your research on course history, recent form, and even more so, how is the specific iron game for that player, or how is that specific driving game for that player to allow you to make educated decisions?
Cam, how do you feel that the patrons will play a part in this week? Obviously, I call them the real fans of golf. There's no one shouting mashed potato or get in the hole when you're hitting a shot on a par 5. What part do you think the fans will play this week?
Yeah, it's nice to have them back. There's no doubt about it. It was a little bit bizarre without them back in November. And I think that the patrons provide somewhat of a live leaderboard for players, because if you hear claps and roars across those Georgia pines there, it allows players to know, okay, something happened here by this player, and I can kind of do a little bit of math, especially on like Sunday afternoon when everybody's making that push to capture the green jacket. Because again, there aren't a lot of big leaderboards on the golf course. I think there are only like a couple. So you're sort of in the dark at times in terms of where you stand among the other players. So the patrons can kind of give you that indication. And of course, just feeding off of the energy. I think it matters a lot to a lot of players out there. Jon Rahm, for instance, Rory McIlroy loves feeding off the energy. So I think in that regard, it's going to be a lot different here watching the Masters this weekend as compared to the weekend back in November when it was kind of like silent and awkward.
Mm-hmm.
Cam, what does the history of the winner of Vallejo compared to the Masters? Because there is some history that can be drawn from that. Is that right?
Yeah, so the last time somebody won the week before the Masters and then the following week was Phil Mickelson back in 2010. He won the Shell Houston Open when that was in that place in the schedule. And then, of course, the Masters over Lee Westwood the big pine straw shot. So we're talking about Jordan Spieth, of course, winner of the Valero Texas Open. He's fighting a little bit of history to get it done this week. And no disrespect to the Valero Texas Open, but that field doesn't really compare to the field here at the Masters. So Jordan Spieth has his work cut out for him. Same for Dustin Johnson, who is basically fighting history too. Only 3 players have successfully defended their green jacket. 2 of those people, you know them by their first name, Jack and Tiger, the third being Nick Faldo. So Spieth and Dustin are in an interesting spot here.
Cam, how important is it? I always say people, because I'm a massive golf fan. I play a lot of golf, and people always ask me, "Oh, who should I bet on the Masters?" My non-golf friends are like, "Oh, who should I back?" And I always say to them, experience is so key around this course. You always look at like a Matt Kuchar, a Bubba Watson, a Phil Mickelson. Look at the guys that know their way around their course. What is it about experience, and what is it about this course that you need to know where to put the ball on literally every single shot? It's so unforgiving, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I would argue this is the stickiest course history among all of the PGA Tour events. Talked about the players. There's a lot of volatility with that tournament. You can miss the cut one year, win, and then like T40, T30, etc. Typically, when you play well at the Masters one year, it's going to continue on because you get better and better. You learn the nuances of this golf course, the undulations of these greens. And oh, by the way, no greens books, right? So you can't read anything off of these books here. And maybe that's why Bryson DeChambeau has been struggling, because he relies on crunching those numbers. So he's going to need more experience before he plays well at this golf course.
Cam, real quick, I wanted to follow up on that. I guess I didn't realize that they weren't allowed the book, because I was going to ask you, for those of us that aren't out hitting them all the time, what's going into that book?
Well, I mean, you can read the elevation changes and the slopes and the undulations. And essentially, it's kind of like a cheat sheet. Like, you know, remember in school when you had an open book test or something like that, and you could read your notes and then go ahead and take the test? That's sort of what a greens book can do for you. For some reason, I'm not really sure why, Augusta National does not allow that for the Masters. So again, it goes back to experience. You sort of have to take mental notes as you play the golf course. So somebody like a Phil Mickelson, you're absolutely right, 3-time Masters champion. He knows this course like the back of his hand. Fred Couples, all the past champions who have played here for many years, they know the drill. But even the younger guys like Jon Rahm and Patrick Reed, these guys have been there. They have done that on the big stage. Rahm has contended here many of times. So yeah, definitely matters.
Cam, I noticed today that Bryson's chose the Masters to use a new driver. Do you think that's him trying to, obviously we've just looked now, he's what, 4 or 5 over. Do you think that's him trying to make a point? Because I know recently the golf authorities are not wanting the guys to hit the ball as far or drive a par 4. But why do you think he's chosen the Masters to bring out a new piece of equipment?
Well, clearly he has not figured out Augusta National. He has yet to have a top 20 at this tournament. So I think he is trying to tinker around and figure out what's going to work best for him. My projection for him going into this tournament was maybe he won't try to overpower the golf course like he did back in November. Maybe he'll try to be more tactical in his approach to his game this week. Obviously, in the early going, not going so hot, but I liked him a lot going into this week because typically he plays well on firm and fast conditions, played well at the Players' Championship, won the Arnold Palmer Invitational. So it's not like he's coming in with bad form or something like that. I'm starting to wonder, and again, it's early, if this is the right tournament for him. But that driver he uses, it's 4 degrees of loft. Like, wow. I don't know how he gets it off the freaking ground.
Yeah. I think I'll be topping every shot.
Right.
Cam, even the novices know the big names. I thought maybe you could give us a couple of under the radar guys that maybe the novice golf fan wouldn't be thinking about for this thing.
Yeah, so a big trend that I was looking at going into the tournament was, how is your tee to green game within the last 90 days leading up to this tournament? And number 1 on that list is Patrick Cantlay. His iron game is absolutely fantastic. Great driver of the ball as well. If he can be field average with his putter, he could put on the green jacket come Sunday afternoon. So I liked him a lot going into this week. And another guy that sort of floats under the radar is Matthew Fitzpatrick, the Englishman, who really isn't flashy with a driver per se or his irons, but has a lights out putter, fantastic short game, which will be critical this week if you're missing greens, which a lot of players will. And he has floated around major championship leaderboards before. So he knows the heat of competition. So somebody like a Matthew Fitzpatrick is a guy that I'm looking at this week.
How much do you think the bad weather's coming in tomorrow, like you said earlier, Cam? How much do you think that'll play a part? Apparently, we're in for some really, really bad weather tomorrow and Saturday. They're saying quite heavy rains coming in. How much do you think that'll play a part in the next couple of days?
Yeah, it all depends on how much rain, obviously. Could we be looking at a Monday finish? God, I hope not, but we shall see. Obviously, the course will be softer. The greens will be more receptive. You won't get as much roll off the tee, which probably would favor the bigger hitters in that instance, because this is a longer course, remember. And the biggest correlator to success at this tournament is actually driving distance among any other statistical category. So if it gets wet and soggy, it's going to be harder for somebody like a Brian Harman, for example, who's 3 under par right now. He's a shorter hitter, and maybe like a Patrick Reed, who isn't particularly long as well.
Yeah, most definitely.
If we're taking one of these bets and we're doing it by the nationalities, as you said earlier, where are those things ranked, would you think?
Rank as in who would I go with, or?
Yeah, if we're putting America and the Europeans and the
we all know the Europeans. You know, we never lose a Ryder Cup anymore, Doug.
I know.
We got to look at the Europeans this week, of course. Absolutely. I know my audience. I went with Paul Casey for top Englishman this week, plus 380 to get that done, because he has just been so consistent with his iron game. His tee to green game in general is fantastic, and he has played well here before. And I was telling people, throw a little sprinkle on Matt Wallace, plus 1,000 to be top Englishman. So that's pretty good value too, if you just want to throw a little cash down. But I picked Jon Rahm to win this tournament. So by that logic, I feel like I have to pick top Spaniard, right? Jon Rahm over Sergio Garcia and Olazabal, who's an older golfer who probably won't make the cut. So typically the hardest nationality is the US players, because you're dealing with Spieth and Justin Thomas and Dustin Johnson and Webb Simpson, who's up there on the leaderboard. So when you're picking the nationalities, you gotta have to be strategic about, all right, what's my sample size? Is there somebody I like in there? Is there good value? And then decide from there.
Cam, just real quickly, someone asked me today about Rickie Fowler. Yeah. Why do you think he's had is he another one who, because he's changed his swing so much and that has affected him dropping out of the top 100? What do you think he needs to do to rediscover his forms? He's such a good player of mine. I'd love to see him, like someone like him, Lee Westwood and Ian Poulter. They never quite seem to get over the line and win a major, do they?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, Fowler is missing his first major championship since 2010, which is totally unbelievable. We're talking about a guy who, by the way, finished inside the top 10 at every major in 2014. So you want to talk about falling from grace a little bit. Yeah, he played last week at the Valero Texas Open, a much weaker field than this week. And he was awful. Like, he didn't even finish inside the top 20. And by talent alone, he should be doing that. The only thing he can really hang his hat on right now is his smooth putting stroke. Everything else seems to be lost. And you're absolutely right. His ball striking is not there. And he's going to have to figure that out. Maybe go back to the simulator. New coach, I have no idea. Sometimes golf is just these ebbs and flows, peaks and valleys of success and failures. Jordan Spieth, prime example. The guy lost his game for years and he's back. And so Rory McIlroy, top of the golf world in 2014, for example, and he's starting to lose it a little bit.
Graham McDowell.
Oh my God, yeah.
Never hear from him anymore, do you?
Absolutely. US Open in 2010, and where is he now, right? So I think Fowler will get back. He's still plenty young. He just needs to kind of go back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
Tiger won't be there, but Phil will. What should we expect out of Phil this week? And if we wanted to sprinkle a little something on Phil, were we in the top 40 with him, the top 20 with him? What's going on with my man Phil?
Yeah, so I actually like Phil a little bit this week. He's actually gained strokes on approach in 4 of his last 5 starts on the PGA Tour, which is pretty good. His 29th trip to the Masters this week, 3-time champion with 15 top 10s to boot. So all that put together, I think a top 40 is very logical for Phil Mickelson. I put that up on my Twitter, actually, plus 125 to get that done, which is pretty solid. plus money. The thing about the Masters is you can really whittle down this field. I mean, all the past champions past their prime, and the amateurs, forget about it. And we're talking about Phil, who, is coming in with decent form on the PGA Tour, not the PGA Tour champions. So I like a top 40 for him. If you're feeling risky, maybe even a top 30.
And real quick, how important is it to get, what does history tell us as to how important it is to get out to a hot start on day one?
Extremely important, because I'm pretty sure the farthest out after the first round was somewhere around, I think, T30 or something like that to come
Nick
back and
Faldo
win.
chasing Greg Norman.
Yeah, well, it was Tiger Woods after that first round in 05, I think. I forget where he started, but he came back and won. But that's Tiger from 05, all right? That's a whole different situation. So you need to be, I would say, level par or better at the end of today to actually have a shot at winning. But we'll see what happens, how the leaderboard shakes out in this afternoon wave. Maybe a 1 over par will have a shot too if you get a nice early morning round and perhaps some receptive greens. But yeah, you got to have a good start today. As they say, you can lose it, but you certainly can't win it on the first day.
Yeah. How important is Amen Corner? Amen Corner, Cam. Like, we talk about it so much in golf. How important is it that you play Amen Corner well to win the Masters?
Yeah, it's critical. I mean, just ask Jordan Spieth in 2015 or 2016, I should say, when he went into the water multiple times and Danny Willett ended up winning that tournament. So it's critical. 12 is super important. I mean, you can have a bogey there, but you better get a birdie on 13 on that par 5 to sort of combat that. Par 4 11th is a tough one as well. So you got to be really strategic when you go around Amen Corner. And really coming out level par is actually pretty good, in my opinion, because you can take advantage of 13, but you also have 15 later on that you can take advantage of. So level par, I think that's critical. And Amen Corner is so interesting because the wind can always be unpredictable, especially on that 12th hole. So keep an eye on that as we go forward this week.
Thank you, man.
Well, before we get out of here, I want to send a quick shout out to the people over at Silver Sports FX. Big Douglas Show line of merchandise dropped there yesterday. Cam, if you tell folks where they can find you, and I know you got a ton of stuff coming up this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Follow me on Twitter at Mr. Rodgers99. You can keep track of all my picks and upcoming interviews this week. It's been a lot of fun. And even without Tiger Woods, we will continue to push along in the golf world, and a lot of content to come.
Excellent. Cam, thank you so much for hopping on with us today.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Cam. Take care.
Cheers.
Cheers, Doug.
All right, bud.